Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Potluck, your everything and anything talk and entertainment TV show. My name is Laura Hartman, and I am your host. Today we have two very special and talented guests joining us who are involved with the First Stage Theater, which happens to be located at Tysons Corner. With me, I have the artistic director, Alex Levy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we also have a very talented guest. His name is Juan Villa.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the show.
Francisco,
yeah,
is that another
very
possibility?
He may look familiar as he's been on the blacklist. So, anyway, and you're a writer, also director.
Yes.
Producer, actor.
Little bit of everything, but mainly acting has been the big thing. That's been the focus.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. And you also, you mostly, well, you're the artistic director, so do you just do all art? Do you just do all directing?
I mostly do directing. I occasionally dabble in playwriting as well.
Okay,
yeah.
and you're international. You've traveled around the world with theater.
Yeah, it's amazing. I never thought that would be an opportunity given, but yeah, I've been fortunate to be able to do work in India and in Jordan and Egypt and Morocco, and yeah, I didn't know that would be, couldn't have imagined that'd be the life that that this created for me. But
wow, yeah. Well, I'm sure you gained a lot of experience.
It is. I mean, the arts are a great way to get to know another culture and to get to know people, and so being able to come and make art with people and. In their home, it really is a unique opportunity. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Oh wow, that's great. So, how did you end up at First Stage?
I was in Los Angeles at the time. I was splitting time between New York and Los Angeles mostly, and our founding director, Mark Crixton, after 7 years, had thought that it was time to make a change at First Stage and announced his retirement. And they went on a nationwide search at First Stage, and I fell in love with the place when I came in and interviewed and met the board and the staff and had an idea of what was happening there. It was really special, and it was enough to make me want to pick up and move across the country and be a part of it. Yeah.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
Almost 3 years, almost exactly 3 years. 3 years this Labor Day, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So my mother does theater, and I get to go to the theater a lot, throughout the year whenever she does shows or, some of her friends do shows. So I work right down the street from where their theater is. But I think in the back of my mind, I knew that you were there, but I didn't really know that the First Stage is there. So
we're tucked away. If you don't know we're there, it surprises. I tell the story all the time of coming in for my interview, and if you park in our parking lot, you walk past an auto shop and a dog spa and a boxing gym, and I thought to myself, where am I and how fast can I go back to New York? But as soon as you cross through the threshold, it's really an amazing space. It's got a warmth that I think is unlike any other theater in this town, and the space is always intimate, so you always feel close, but it's big enough to let us do some really exciting things there.
Sure.
And it's a great hidden secret, tucked around the corner on Spring Hill Road there.
So are there members that belong to the theater, or how do people find out about the shows that you have there?
Well, we've been fortunate to be able to get a lot of positive press, and thank you for having us on here too. And so you can certainly always find out at our website, firststage.org.
That's number one.
stage.org. Yes. Otherwise, you end up with a theater in Milwaukee. That's right.
Right. You don't have to do that.
And we're fortunate that the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal and many local and national papers have been covering our shows for some time now.
Okay. And do you have members that belong?
We do have a subscriber base that have been with us from the get-go, and some who have joined us recently, and we're always grateful for that. But we have about 10,000 people who come through our doors every year.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Yeah. And how many? What's the capacity?
We're a small theater. We're about 120 seats. So you can get a sense of how many. How full we are and how many performances we're doing. Yeah, so there's always something happening there.
Now, you just did a performance which was your play, which was called
Empanada for a Dream.
You say that better than I do.
Let's hope he's been doing it for 5 years.
I was
no, Now you've made some. I mean, are you like a traveling? You travel around the country with your play?
For the last, it premiered in New York City at a company called Ballybeg that Alex was artistic director there. And so since then, 2012, I've done it in Chicago a couple of times, actually. I've done it in Los Angeles for a run. I did it in San Diego for a performance. I've gone upstate to Syracuse.
Oh, wow.
And so, and then I got to finally, the Bay Area, yep. And then finally here, got to do 2 weeks for a festival called the Logan
Festival for a Solo Performance.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
we brought in solo performers like Juan from around the country, and for 2 weeks they were in rep performing their work. It really was an exciting production, and it's the first. We'll have it again next July too.
Oh,
so,
very
yeah.
cool, very cool. And you got him to stay because now he's. You guys
Yeah, right. Once we got him to DC, once we
both-
come to Virginia, we won't let him go. Exactly.
Well, just going off of what Alex was touching on, I never know how my story of growing up in the Lower East Side of New York City in Manhattan, and just with the type of story that I have, I wasn't sure how. I'm never sure how an audience is going to respond to it, and from the first performance on, it was exciting, and it was a pleasure. And then the talkbacks, I thought, were very insightful. The audience is very smart, and seemed to be wanting stories like what all the 3 plays that were brought up: The Gun Show, and then the Hicks, A Love Story. So I am excited for this production with Jesus Hop the A Train. By Stephen Anley Girgis, who's now he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and he's now writing for Netflix and a bunch of other shows. But I'm excited to see the response from the first stage audience.
So why are you co-directing this play? The Jesus Hop the A Train, not your play, because I want to talk about your play too.
Sure.
But why did you decide to?
Well, so Juan and I have known each other and collaborated now for 15 years or so. We met in Chicago when we were both living in Chicago, and then we worked together in New York and Los Angeles. And it's really, and we've worked on his show for 5 years, but I've lost track of how many different productions of shows we've worked together on. And it's really become once you find collaborators who really understand what you want to do, who bring out your best art, you hang on to them. Right?
Okay.
And so when I had the opportunity we got the opportunity to produce this show, Jesus Hop the A Train at First Stage. I was really excited about it, but Juan has a history with the playwright. He's performed in his work.
Oh, wow.
The world of the play is a very New York play. It's the people that I know Juan grew up with, and I just thought this was a great opportunity for us to collaborate in a new way together. So I asked him if maybe he'd come down to Virginia and work with us.
Oh, nice. So what is Jesus Hop the A Train all about?
I would say it's about a character named Angel who has just been incarcerated, and he's just in the process of going through a trial, figuring out if what he did, whether the legal system is saying he's guilty or just morally if he's guilty. So we track his story through the play, and so we get to meet a bunch of other characters through his story. His lawyer, another fellow inmate, a guard, 2 guards that are in there. And so we go through this really beautiful journey of just, judgment, forgiveness, redemption.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. So when will that happen at First Stage?
Yeah, so we start performances on September 7th, and we run through October 8th.
My birthday.
Oh. What better way to celebrate? Just built you a plan.
Okay. So September 7th
through October 8th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay, so like a full month.
Yeah, it's running for a month. For those of anybody who's been to First Stage before, that it will seem different because we're changing the arrangement of the theater for this show. So it's going to be staged in the round, so with audience on all 4 sides of the stage.
Oh, nice.
So it becomes a really intimate story.
I like that setup. I've gone to concerts where they set up the stage right in the middle.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like you get a better perspective and view as long as like everybody's moving around and
Yeah. There's an intimacy to it, and there's an opportunity for the audience is aware of each other when you do it that way, and you're sort of experiencing it together in a way.
Right.
And for this show that is about how we see each other and is how we judge each other, and ultimately a story, I think, of redemption, and the idea of having the audience connected in that way was exciting for us. So it's a big move for us. We're figuring out how to do it, but it's exciting for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So let's go back to talk about the play that you wrote.
Sure.
Yes. So what is that about?
It's about myself growing up in the Lower East Side, and my parents are from Colombia. I was the first one born in this country, and in New York City. And one of the discoveries that I made was that a lot of the men in my family, they wouldn't live to reach the age of 33. So when I was 32 at the time, I had a kind of a freak out because I didn't see a reason why I should not reach the age of 33, but I just started reflecting on a lot of things. And one of the things that I knew at the time when I was 32, but just in reflecting back, was the question of whether I'm going to pay for my family's sins. And the sins of my family were that my uncles, they did smuggle in cocaine. They were cartels in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and they sold cocaine, and they murdered people, and then they themselves got murdered one at a time.
Oh my gosh.
So it was about that. I was never involved in that, but it was definitely, I grew up in it, and it affected a lot of my friends and even people that I never knew. So it's about that, whether I will pay for my family sins.
Sure.
And then also just, similar with Jesus Hopped the A Train, of just forgiveness, whether it's for my family or especially for myself, and taking responsibility for my own actions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It's a beautiful show.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. And you've won awards.
Yeah, I've had some nominations, and I got an award also. And so I'm glad the response critically and even from the audiences has been fantastic. I'm looking to bring it for a proper premiere in New York City with more workshop performances and festival performances in New York. But I want to just bring it home, and just since it's a New York City story, I want to bring it there. And also, a lot of people who've seen it, they say it's a period piece because New York City has changed a lot. So watching it, it just brings back memories. I grew up with hip hop. I grew up with Spanish music. I also was a big grunge fan. New York now compared to then is just a completely different ball game.
Right.
It was interesting because I just saw a play last night called Wig Out by Terrell McElhaney, and at Studio Theater. And I'd been at that area, which I'm not sure what the area is called, but I was there 5 years ago, and the difference between 5 years ago,
and now
14, it's like 14th and P and P. Yeah. And so to now, I could not believe it last night. It was like a gelato sorbet place, and it was a weird out-of-body experience, but it reminds me of the Lower East Side, where I think it's an early introduction of how where gentrification got its start in some ways.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, so back to Jesus Hopped the A Train. How do you find the actors for your play and people that work the set and lights and everything else? Yeah,
it's a long process. We have some of the DC area's best artists at First Stage. It's something we take a lot of pride in, and so. We start casting shows months and months before we enter rehearsal, and we see many actors in the audition process. Sure. And we've put together really an incredible team on this one. Yeah, and in fact, one of the actors was in the show. Was in the show. Yes. I was just talking about at Studio, and
nice.
And it's a show that requires a real mix of kinds of people too. I mean, both ethnically, but it is like New York City. It is sort of a melting pot of a show.
Right, so. Especially if people are incarcerated and in jail. You want to get kind of the hardcore and.
And it's a complicated. They're all complicated roles because Geerges writes these characters who definitely speak from a world and are of New York and of a certain time and place, but it's also elevated language in certain ways. He really is a poet, and so as an actor, you have to be working language on two fronts at all times.
Right,
it's both crude and beautiful at the same time.
Sure.
And not everybody can do that. So we've found 5 really amazing actors who make you laugh and cry and fill your soul, and who can, twitch a finger and change an entire world,
Right,
and they're really wonderful group. It makes our job as directors that much easier when you have that much talent in a room. Yeah.
Sure. So your theater is a professional theater,
It is,
correct?
yeah.
So I know like some professional theaters will get people from like out of state or from across the U.S.
Yeah.
Do you do that, or do you focus?
We do sometimes. Juan is living in New York, so it does happen. We are from the beginning have been committed to making sure that Washington is a place that, and the D.C. area is a place that great art happens, and one of the ways that I think that you make that happen is by investing in the local artists. We want to make sure that that our actors stay in the area and don't go to New York or Los Angeles. And the way to do that is by creating jobs for them, creating opportunities for them. So we try very hard not to cast from around the country, but we do on occasion for a variety of reasons. And the Logan Festival that I was talking about we were bringing in artists from San Francisco and Los Angeles and New York and Portland, and so that one had a more national flair. But we really are committed to investing in the local art scene, which is a really incredible art scene. It's one of the things that drew me to the area. I was working mostly in Los Angeles and New York, and not only do I not feel like I've had to sacrifice anything artistically by working in this area. In fact, I think that there's been more opportunity to do great art since I've moved here. I'm really proud to be a part of this art scene.
No, DC is a very good arts center.
Yeah.
And it's growing more.
Yeah,
I mean, not just with theater, but also film and music.
Absolutely.
Same with Baltimore. It's like,
Yeah. Then there are. The artistic, speaking from the theater point of view, the artistic community here is second to none, and I feel absolutely confident.
Very good, yeah. Like I was telling you before, my mom, is a director of theater, and I've grown up watching the theater, and she's taken me to New York to see some really good Broadway shows, but I've seen a lot of shows down here where it's been community theater, professional theater, and they've been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, why not go to a nice dinner, go for a nice dinner and then go to the theater,
Absolutely.
In your own neighborhood and support the arts here.
Well, and I think one of the reasons that First Stage started is there was not professional theater in our area, and when experiencing art, I think it makes a difference that it is of your community, and that you are going with your neighbors to have an experience, to tell a story, to have a conversation, and it's different to go have that conversation in somebody else's community, or to have somebody else come in and give you that conversation than it is to have it be born of the community. And so that's one of the things we're really proud of being able to bring to our area in Tysons and Fairfax County and Northern Virginia, to be able to have that level of artistic experience that is of and in that community.
Right. Now, the Tysons, I work on Greensboro Drive at Tysons, and
You're right by us.
yes, as I was saying, I work right down the street from your theater, and so like across the street from where I work, they're building the borough.
Yep.
Where
just
like
down the
Whole
block from
Foods
us.
and there's gonna be condos, the whole big like center there.
Yeah.
And they're just building everywhere around Tysons, so. Your theater is going to be moving like in probably a long time, but it's going to stay in the same area?
We are. We're committed to staying in the same area. We're in some conversations with some developers and with the county government about the next home for First Stage.
Okay.
We're talking probably 5 to 10 years down the road. It's not happening tomorrow. We're safe in our space for a while.
Right.
But we do. It's complicated because our space is hidden, and it is a converted space from a strip mall. And I love our space. And so on the one hand, we dream about what the next space will be when we can actually build it from the ground up.
Right.
But it's important to us to keep the feel of what First Stage is, for it to be remain as warm a space as it is, remain an intimate space for our audience. I think it's what our audience have come to love about us. So as we have those conversations, it's
right, as
yes,
Tysons is
how
growing.
How do we do bigger? How do we do better? How do we have the new toys? How do we do all those things? But it's at the same time to never sacrifice that warmth and intimacy that's become part of our aesthetic.
Because you know, with it growing and more people coming, they may be knocking on your door and you'll be all sold out.
Well, it's one of the things that was really interesting for me taking the job is all the change that's happening in Tysons, and it's rare that a community goes through that much change as quickly. I mean, you ask 100 people, you'll get 100 different opinions on what Tysons Corner will look like in 20 years, but it won't look like it looks now.
No, definitely
and it doesn't look now like it did 20 years ago.
No, it does not.
And so that conversation of what a city will be, what a community will be as it's in that much change is interesting. And I believe that great cities do require great art, and so how the arts intersect with that kind of change, and where people can come together, because you can have roads and trains, but that doesn't build community. That gets people to community. And I've been really proud to be a part of that conversation in Tysons, and really excited to be a part of that conversation in Tysons.
So. Next on to the next question. Do you guys working together have any challenges as far as
I don't know if this is where we should air.
Yeah, exactly. Cameras are on.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things in knowing Alex for the past 15 years is it's not just when we've worked together, and I think working on my solo play, even when we revisit it, it's always a nice reminder. His bar is very high on what, not just the kind of work he wants to be involved in, but when he sees your potential, you as an artist. So anybody who asked me about working with him in whatever capacity, and now as a co-director, I see it also I will say that it's like he will push you, and that's the kind of artist that I would want to work with, whether it's as a cast or as a director. So, but when we talk about plays, also we talk constantly, and we will argue about different points of views. And but I've seen we're on the same page about what we want.
Right.
And so it's been more about, for myself, it's been a bit since I've directed a full production of a show. So it's been observing, but also I trust myself as an actor and just as an observer of what's working moment to moment. How can we have a conversation with some of the actors or ask the questions so that we can continue either exploring different things, and also watching how he talks to them, because as working as a solo artist with him, it's like, he's just being mean to me, he's being pushy. And then I see him do the same thing with others, but they're not they're not as whiny as I am about it. So I would say it's just more and being an actor for so long, it's just been, all right, how do I work with them and help them discover things so that the artist can be empowered. So and we're still sort of figuring it out. I mean, technically, we're going to we're finishing our second week and are about to begin our third week. And I think each rehearsal, we've been discovering different things.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll say so I've never co-directed before. It's not, directing's usually a solo sport. And
right, no,
I wouldn't have done it with just anybody. Juan and I have, I know what kind of mind Juan has, and both talent and in terms of us being able to speak together. And it's interesting because Juan is relatively new to directing, although has been a theater maker for years and years. Sure. And I've been doing it for a while, but what I found in myself through this process is is having another artist in the room in that role has challenged me in new ways. You know, once you do things for a long time, you try not to, but you start to fall into habits to sort of know how to shortcut something. And now I have to articulate things. Occasionally, I'm challenged by a partner now on this, and also to have a world-class actor in the room with the actors, and to see how that experience happens. It's sort of revved up my batteries again in a lot of ways to have that experience, to be able to be challenged in a good way to look at the work and to be able to articulate the work and to say what we're trying to drive at and what we see. It's been, but I didn't know how it would go, and we're not done.
Right,
So,
right.
but it's been really, but it's something that takes a really special kind of relationship.
Okay.
And it's, you know, going back about asking the local talent, it's been a joy for me to, I've worked in Chicago from very big theaters to small storefronts. I've worked in New York. I'm about to work at the Public Theater this fall in New York, in Los Angeles, and I've watched theater around the country, especially in the big cities. And it's been great how much of a solid ensemble the group has been, from Robert, Frank, Teresa, Jose, Luis. It's been a good group, and Katie, our stage manager, for to be challenged and to never settle, because you can see sometimes I've seen other rehearsals, I've been part of shows, and people can be resistant to things, and and now if someone is resistant in the cast, they're not letting on, they're willing to continue exploring, because this type of content, it's not light content, though it is a funny show. It's some heavy content, and something can happen in the psyche sometimes where you don't want to go somewhere, you don't want to explore something, and you can maybe resist and not be aware of it and be defensive. And they have not. They've been, and it's been great. It's been great for me to witness on this end as a co-director, because then it reminds me for when I go back into rehearsals as an actor of, yeah, that's what it's about. Because you can feel sometimes the ego come into place, and it's been awesome to work with the cast so far.
Wow. Well, time's run out.
She was right. It went fast. She was right.
So thank you so very much for coming on the show. And for those who are just tuning in, make sure you catch us on the web at www.potluck-online.org, and make sure you go to firststage.org.
Number 1
st.org.
Yes.
Firststage.org, to find out more about Jesus Hopped the A Train and any future productions coming up.
Please do.
Yeah. And so, again, we'll see you next time, and thank you so much again. It was a pleasure meeting both of you and finding out about what you're doing and, you know, helping the community. So it was great.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.